The 2019 DC Essentials by DC Collectibles. The 2019 DC vs. Dark Horse 2-pack version by NECA. The 2021 DC Multiverse Dawnbreaker 2-pack by McFarlane Toys. And the all-new 2024 McFarlane Toys Silver Age digital version. To celebrate my 400th video today, we're going to figure out which Hal Jordan is the best Green Lantern for your 7-inch scale Justice League. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation and episode 400. Starting with the packaging, and as is often the case with these bigger verses, I don't have the boxes for these guys. Luckily, Google Image Search does. DC Essentials comes in a clean and simple green and white box with some figure photography on the side. The back includes a product shot, a bio, and other figures in the wave. Because of licensing issues, NECA had to take a more minimalist approach with a basic simple black box. And I'm not kidding, there are no graphics anywhere on this thing. There isn't even a NECA logo to tell you who made it. Opening it up and you can see what it comes with, but that's all you're gonna get. The Dawnbreaker 2-pack comes on the tried and true extra wide DC Multiverse window box, and on the back we can see some creative figure photography and other available figures. The DC Digital is a fairly new design. With simple names and logos, it's fairly similar to DC Essentials. Like a DC Multiverse, we get names and logos on the side, and some comic art on the back. With the exception of how plain Jane NECA is, there isn't really anything wrong with these boxes. That said, if you've seen enough of these videos, you know that I appreciate that DC Essentials gives you a bio, shows you the figures you're gonna get, and makes for a colorful, eye-catching lineup on your shelf. For packaging, this round goes to Essentials. Moving on to presentation, and they range in height from just under 7 inches to 7 1/4. From the top, an Essentials has a nicely sculpted face with playful confidence. You really do get that daring fighter pilot feel. NECA opted for a serious, more clenched teeth look. Your mileage may vary, but I always thought that the NECA heads were just a bit over-detailed. That said, I do appreciate all the texture and paintwork in the hair. The McFarlane figure from the Dawnbreaker 2-pack, which I'll just be referring to as Multiverse, is similarly stoic. I do like the lighter hair on this one, but he does seem a little bit older and angrier. Similar to Essentials, and the McFarlane Digital figure, which I'll just be referring to as Digital, also has a playful face. In general, I'd say these two have the most in common. Out of all of them, I like the skin tone best on this one, and it's very cleanly painted. In my previous Green Lantern verses, I showed you the digital head on the Multiverse body. I thought it improved the personality of the figure, but was a bit small for the body. In the comments, I had requests to show the other way around, so here you go. Personally, I don't think this is a great match. Grimace aside, it's just plain too big. Moving on down, and aside from the hands, Essentials is completely reused of their standard Essentials male body. The boot tops actually come from Batman. Feel free to correct me in the comments, but I'm not used to seeing Hal Jordan with pointy boot tops like this. Either way, like I said, the hands are new and you can actually make out the details of the ring. All the other details are merely painted on, with this being the only one of the four with a black outline around the logo. Otherwise, the figure does suffer from the long gangly limbs that really plague the entire line. The NECA figure is also reused, sharing lots of body parts with the other DC figures in the Dark Horse series. That said, the torso has been re-sculpted to accommodate not having a cape. The glove lines have been sculpted, though admittedly the paint is a bit sloppy. He's also been retooled to accommodate not having a belt, and he's been given his own unique boot tops. Unlike DC Essentials, while the ring has also been sculpted, it's not really decipherable as any particular logo. Speaking of logos, that's also been painted on. I do think that the lack of black outline is an improvement. Unfortunately, the white of the logo is a lot dingier than the gloves, so at a distance it does really stand out. Reuse really is the theme of the round, as Multiverse was made using their John Stewart body. It's been given lots of different seam lines and piping and ridges that we don't normally see with the costume. Admittedly, I've always felt that it made him look a bit insectile, almost like the costumes were designed by H.R. Giger. As a model for a possible live-action costume, that's kind of cool, but not quite what I was looking for in my comic book version. To its credit though, it's the only one of the set that has a sculpted logo, and the overlay does a good job of hiding the waist. Leastways until you arch him backwards. He also has the worst ring of the four, looking like an indecipherable adorable blob. The Silver Age digital release is also reused, this time built off of the Blue Beetle body. The dead giveaway there are these extra strap lines for the boots. This is a clean, basic male body, and while I don't love how the diaper draws attention to itself, the proportions are good, the logo on the ring is actually clear, and the colors are nice and vibrant. Referring back to Essentials, and they used a warmer green, which I like, but that classic emerald green on the two McFarlane figures is closer to what I look for in a Green Lantern. Now to NECA's credit, there's a bit of shading in there, which the other ones don't have, but again, you do have the mismatched whites, and that paint has been flaking off the entire time I've been recording. Quality control issues aside, this category largely comes down to personal preference. I know from the comments of my previous verses that a lot of you guys really dig this one, but for a clean basic Green Lantern come to life, and you can't beat the simplicity of the Silver Age. For presentation, this round goes to digital. Moving on to Posability, and DC Essentials' head is on a ball joint and a disc swivel. Everyone else has a dumbbell joint. They can look up this high with DC Essentials having the edge and NECA not even showing up, and they can look down this far with DC Essentials showing why a ball joint and a disc swivel always beats a dumbbell. Unless, of course, what you want is tilt, in which case all you're going to get is a little bit of a wobble, whereas the dumbbells definitely have that beat. Moving on down, and neither Essentials nor NECA can raise their arms 90 degrees, whereas the two McFarlane ones can go over 90 with Multiverse having the highest reach. Additionally, the two McFarlane figures have rotator cuffs which give them additional range, but all four figures benefit from bicep swivel. Additionally, all four have double jointed elbow with Multiverse having the deepest bend. At the ends of their arms, Essentials and NECA have wrists that can merely swivel and hinge either up or down, whereas the McFarlane figures can swivel and hinge up and down or side to side. Moving to the middle, and NECA and Essentials have ab crunches and waist swivels. Alternately, the McFarlane figures have diaphragm joints and dumbbell waists. Those ab crunches aren't getting much in the way of an arch back. Leastways, the McFarlane figures have them beat, unlike most figures with ab crunches, and they don't really have that much of a hunch forward either, though it is still better than McFarlane. The McFarlane figures also benefit from being able to tilt, while the waist cuts merely allow for swivel. Below the waist in Essentials has ball jointed hips. The McFarlane figures have these internal hinges with detents and swivels that connect into the leg. We can see the plugs for that here. NECA, however, has these double swivel balls, pretty much just like the shoulders. Similar to McFarlane, they have an internal twist. Unfortunately, their system really reveals how ugly those hip balls are. McFarlane's, however, are much more nicely hidden. Essentials might not look as good, but he has a thigh cut which gives him full rotation. Otherwise, Essentials and NECA can kick this high, with McFarlane having that beat by a country mile. That said, all four figures have a pretty near perfect split. Well, except for Multiverse. Otherwise, everyone has double jointed knee with pretty deep bends. Honestly, they're all pretty equivalent in this area. NECA and the McFarlane figures have toe ticulation, with Multiverse having the deepest bend, but whereas NECA's ankles can merely hinge and pivot, everyone else has ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, and pivot. It is worth noting, however, that both Essentials and NECA have boot cut. In the case of NECA, that makes up for the lack of ankle swivel. This category might not have been the strongest showing for NECA and Essentials, but between the two McFarlane offerings, one name kept popping up over and over again. For Posability, this round goes to Multiverse. Moving on to Playability, and not surprisingly, DC Essentials doesn't come with anything. As for NECA and Multiverse, both of those figures were part of 2 packs, but unfortunately I don't have either one of their companions. NECA came with a Yellow Lantern Predator, and Multiverse came with the Dawnbreaker. That said, I do have their accessories, and NECA's are some of my favorite. For one thing, he has this alternate accessory holding hand for his lantern. Unfortunately, I can't find mine anywhere, but the really cool thing is this alternate right hand. Notice instead of a ring, it has a peg hole. That's to accommodate this plug-in blast, this plug-in glint, and this plug-in energy beam. This is such a cool concept. But if all that wasn't enough, he even comes with an alternate head to turn Hal Jordan into John Stewart. It's literally 2 figures in one. As for DC Multiverse, it has a trading card and a figure stand. Additionally, it has this really cool energy base. You can see a Green Lantern themed missile here, some tentacles and a chain, as well as an explosion. Otherwise, he comes with this boxing glove energy construct. That, of course, is a pretty quintessential Hal Jordan move. He also has a fun jetpack you can plug into his back. Honestly, that's pretty creative. Digital also has a trading card and a figure stand. Of course, unlike DC Multiverse, it has digital branding. He also comes preloaded with a pair of fists, which are perfect for wearing these wrap-over energy effect punches. He also has has his open hand for when he wants to high-five his super friends, as well as this accessory holding hand, perfect for holding his lantern. Of course, this is part of the McFarlane Toys digital series, so he also comes with a code for a digital version of the figure. Essentially, it's the action figure equivalent of an NFT and exists in a digital showroom. I don't really have a strong opinion on it one way or the other, but this has been pretty polarizing with collectors. One thing I've learned from the comments is you can apparently export the model to programs like ZBrush, which I guess is pretty cool for aspiring action figure sculptors, but for an old school collector like me, it's the tangible, hands-on quality of action figures that I appreciate. Playability is more than just accessories, either fungible or non-fungible though. It's also about how well your figures play with others. Starting with Superman, and obviously the two DC Essentials figures scale well, and of course the two NECA figures scale well. Multiverse is a bit big for either, but scales better with NECA, with digital being a pretty good match for NECA as well. Moving over to McFarlane, and here we have Hush and Action Comics 1000. NECA's been my go-to Hal Jordan, so I'm pretty okay with him with either. Multiverse looks better with Action Comics 1000, but I still think he's a bit busy. Digital is a nice happy medium between both. Switching over to Batman, and despite the busted ear and missing hand, Essentials is of course a pretty good match for Essentials, and once again NECA is a good match for NECA. I don't think Multiverse is a great match for either, but again I do think that digital and NECA can go together. Back to McFarlane, and I do think that Essentials scales pretty well with Nightfall Batman. NECA's a good match for Nightfall as well, but is still way too small for Hush, or should I say that Hush is way too big for him. Out of all of them, this is the tallest Hal Jordan. And then finally with digital, once again it looks great with Nightfall. Speaking of characters being way too tall, and here we have the McFarlane Collector Edition Wonder Woman along with the Terry Dodson version. I chose Dodson over Essentials because it's a classic design. Scaling wise, this Hal looks pretty good with both. Same thing with digital. Doubling up, and here we have Flashpoint Barry along with Aquaman with Barry's alternate unmasked head. Again, with this being my go-to Hal for a while, I'm pretty happy with this matchup. Not that this looks bad, just stylistically different. That said, with Hal and Flash being built on the same body, to my eye, it's a perfect match. For another very important Green Lantern though, and here we have John Stewart. We've already looked at the NECA figure as John Stewart, but here he is with John, sharing the same body, and these two are a match made in heaven. And of course, we've already compared the digital one with the Plastic Man Wave version in my previous Green Lantern verses. And then finally, for Hal's arch nemesis Sinestro, and the Essentials look great. Once again, and NECA's a good match for either. Strictly speaking, Sinestro should be much taller than Hal, but it still looks pretty good. And then hopefully one of these days we get a classic Sinestro to go with this classic Hal. And then for a couple of other important lanterns, and here we have the Kyle and Kilowog 2-pack. Although he's fine for Kilowog, NECA's a bit short for Kyle. Multiverse doesn't have that problem, but while the colors are a good match, the texture is not. Same thing with digital, though he does seem a hair short for Kyle. For a relative scale comparison, here's everybody with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. You know, I was a Green Lantern once. No, really. When it comes to playability, I'm looking at accessories, scaling, and how the figure looks with other figures. With the exception of other DC Essentials, the Essentials Hal unfortunately comes up short. Multiverse has a couple of fun accessories, and as part of the 2-pack comes with a completely separate figure that he can play with. But because of how over-designed he is, I do feel it limits what other figures you can display him with. That being the case, for a good all-around classic Hal, I'm pretty partial to digital, plus he has all the basic accessories you could need for a Hal Jordan. On the other hand, even if I don't personally have the lantern he's supposed to come with, NECA has all the Hal Jordan accessories you could need, and some of those accessories are pretty unique. Additionally, if you got him new, he also has a whole other extra figure to play with, and an alternate head turning him into a completely different character. Not only that, but I was already using him in my Justice League anyway. For playability, this round goes to NECA. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. DC Essentials originally retailed for $28, but now goes anywhere from $50 loose to $80 in box. Given the whole lot of nothing he comes with, that's pretty steep. The history of the NECA DC Dark Horse 2-packs is a long and storied one, but TLDR, it finally came out as a 2019 New York Comic Con exclusive. It retailed for $60, sold out immediately, and now on the aftermarket goes anywhere anywhere from $100 loose per figure all the way up to $200 new in box. I personally didn't pay anything even close to that, so if you're patient you can probably get a deal on him. That said, as overpriced as he is, you do still get a pretty good bang for your buck. The Dawnbreaker 2-pack version averages between $40 to $60, but is on sale right now at Big Bad Toy Store. If, however, all you want's a good solid Hal Jordan with all the fixins for $25 retail, it's hard to beat this one. He's only hitting stores now, so be patient and do try to avoid the aftermarket. So far, I've seen him at Target, GameStop, and Books-A-Million, so don't give up hope yet. For price, this round goes to Digital, who wins the battle 2-1 to 1-1. Agree? Disagree? Sound off in the comments below and tell me which one you like best. While you're down there, let me know if you'd like to see a similar versus with either Jon Stewart or Kyle Rayner. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.